No, ma'am. I went through it and I found it to be fine. I don't have any doubts.
Okay.
Okay, everyone put on your cameras.
Yes,
मैम
हाँ.
बच्चे है ना जब सर का रहता है ना कुछ भी क्लास मनीष सर का तो सबके कैमरा ऑन रहता है किसी के भी कैमरे को कुछ भी प्रॉब्लम नहीं रहता है
Then why do you have a problem with my class?
हाँ
Not interested?
मैंने नोट किया इसलिए मैंने उनको बोल दिया अभी मैं बोलूंगी नहीं मैं डायरेक्ट उठा के वेटिंग रूम में डाल दूंगी
हाँ, I think you have to do that.
हाँ
Charul,
Good evening, ma'am.
where were you the last few classes?
Ma'am, I just finished the last class.
And the one before that?
No, ma'am, I was present in that time.
You were present?
Yeah, ma'am. I have the notes too.
So,
Also in the last class, there was migraine, so I was not that well. It's because of this hot weather. Yeah.
Your voice is breaking. Where are you?
I'm not at my home right now. I'm at bank, so I'm using my mobile data.
Okay, I hope you are able to follow properly.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I used to see the YouTube videos also after that, if I miss it.
Okay. Celeb, is your audio proper today? Yes, Celeb, is your audio working today?
Hello.
Yes, Celeb.
Am I audible, ma'am?
Somewhat. It's not very clear though.
Okay, ma'am. Give me a moment.
Okay, I haven't received any further responses from any one of you. What happened?
I have did some, but right now I don't have enough. Like the phone which I am recording. So just an hour, I will send it.
Thoroughly audio is not very clear. It's breaking quite a bit. Okay, whoever has been practicing, please send me your recording so I know you are doing fine.
Oh, good evening, ma'am. Can you hear me now?
Yes, who was that?
Caleb.
Yes. Celeb, your voice is, your audio is very bad. Are you out somewhere or are you at home?
I mean, my normal place I can it's more of not situation in that I back off.
Can you please put in the chat? We can hardly hear you. There's lots of disturbance. Yes, good afternoon, Kesar.
Good afternoon.
Okay, everyone, please have your videos on. I don't need to tell you over and over again. Yes, thank you, Kesar. Rishikesh, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, please have your video on. Okay, now we have finished with the speaking section. And I want to know if anyone has any doubts. You would have doubts only if you have practiced. If you say you don't have any doubts, means very likely you haven't practiced. Anyone? Rishikesh? Any more of your integrated tasks?
No, ma'am. I have practiced it lightly.
You can practice lightly. You have to take it seriously. You are finishing with what I have given you, and I was planning to give you extra work. When are you going to do that? And
I will do it like this.
writing also will require practice, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so everyone has your headphones on so that you can hear clearly. Today we are going to do integrated writing. So you have to take down notes. I hope you have your pencil, notebook, paper, whatever you are going to write on, and your headphones. Yeah. And most importantly, your focus. Right? Okay. So we are going to begin with the Toefl writing today. I presume nobody has any doubts in the speaking section and everyone is going to get above 25. So I can very well move on to writing now, right? Celeb, at least keep your video on. You can put your video off when you want to speak. Manya, are you there? Manya Srivastava, please have your video on.
Please give it 10 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, so now in Toefl writing, you're going to have two tasks. It's when we say Toefl writing, it's not, it has a particular purpose behind it. Like in the reading, listening, comprehensions, and the speaking section, here also they are going to test you on how well you can communicate in English. And here it will be how well you can write, right? And they're mostly academic related, or you will be given a particular topic as in the speaking, independent speaking. Similarly, you can have an independent writing essay also will be there. Now the entire section will be 50 minutes long. There are two essay writing tasks, the integrated writing and the independent writing. Yeah. And you are not writing on paper, so you have to practice this also. Remember, you have to type it out. And you should be able to type out in the time given to you, right? And a normal keyboard will be given to you, so which everyone is anyway used to. And this is mainly the last section, so you know what is coming up after speaking. So now we should know the format of the writing section before we move on to what to do. So as I said, the two writing tasks. Integrated writing, you'll get 20 minutes to work out on it. And the independent writing, you'll get 30 minutes, right? Now the integrated writing tasks, as in the speaking section, the integrated task had you listen to say you read a passage, you listen to a lecture, and then you are giving a question and you are going to write. So it is mainly summarizing whatever is in the lecture and whatever is in the reading. But there's a specific purpose to the question. In the integrated writing task, it is mainly how the lecture responds to the points in the reading passage. And comparing, mainly it is how it refutes the passage. So we will go to into the details in a short while. So the reading passage will be a short passage about they will give you 3 minutes to read. Not that it takes really 3 minutes, but they will give you 3 minutes in which you will be taking down your notes also, right? And there will be a short audio clip about 2 minutes long, which will be discussing the same topic, and the opinion of the speaker will come in. And here you get 20 minutes to plan, and so you are not getting any extra time to plan. 20 minutes is the entire time you get to plan and write your answer, right? And in the independent task, you will get a small question, very much similar to the independent speaking question, where you express your opinion and you explain your answer with the help of reasons and examples, right? And here you get 30 minutes to plan and write. Okay. So this is what the writing section is about. So just to sum it up, if this is easier for you to remember, the integrated writing, it's an academic course content on a particular topic or issue. You will be, there will be a reading passage and a lecture you will listen to. 3 minutes to read, 2 minutes to listen, 20 minutes to plan, and this is important. The integrated writing, your essay should be between 150 and 225 words, right? Not more than 230 words. So you don't need to write a very long thing because this is to be to the point. Now coming to your independent one, a general topic, you express your opinion, 30 minutes to plan and write, and at least 300 words. So it should not be less than 300 words. Got it? So this is what your structure will be. Now it is important to know how it is scored. So each of the tasks will be scored out of 5. Your speaking task was scored out of 4 each. Your writing task will be scored out of 5 each. Yeah. And your overall score, like it is 0 to 5. So again, graded. If it is, you've not written anything at all, of course, 0. Very poorly written, very sketchy, then 1. A good score will be 5, right? And the two essays will be combined together, and you will get a total score of 10, which will go into a scale score of 30, right? So when we talk about a scale score of 30, what do you mean? So how much should you get in each of the tasks, each of the tasks to get a 30? 5, 5, obviously, right? Now, if you get say 4 in 1 and 5 in 1, then you will be close to 30, say about 29. Yeah. If you get 4 in both, then maybe you will come up with a 27 or so. And the graders can also give you scores in the progression of 0.5. So 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, that way also you can get. Now, what are the raters looking for? Like in the speaking task, we went through what they are looking for. So here it is, they are looking for accurate development, organization, language use. These are the 3 main parameters, and then we will go into details of the parameters. Yeah. And 2 graders will be scoring your essay, and each one of them will give you 0 to 5. Say one of them gives you 4, the other gives you 3, then your average of the 2 will be 3.5, right? And if there is a disparity in the score, say one of the graders gives you 5, the other gives you 2, or one gives you 5, the other gives you 3. So then in that case, there will be a third grader who will again grade it, and whichever is closest, that will be counted. Okay, so this is about a general view. Now we come to the integrated writing. 1 minute. Now, let's go into a little details about how you are graded. So when we said development, the quality of your writing will come in, and since it is an integrated task, all the information from the reading and the lecture should be included, right? So important information should be there. So when we are talking about accurate development, how you select important information from the lecture, that is counted. How well you present it in relation to relevant information from the reading. So here is where the question types come in. So it's usually they will ask you, how does the lecturer respond to the points raised in the by the author, or points raised in the reading, or how does the lecturer challenge the points raised in the reading, or if it is agreement, then how does he agree? Now, when it talks about organization, your paragraphs count, how many paragraphs, each point should have 1 paragraph and 1 for introduction. Conclusion only if you have enough time. Then how you use transitions. Speaking also, we spoke about transitions. Avoiding redundancy, so repetition should not be there. Even repetition of transition words should not be there, right? Then how well you write, using your language properly. That is one very crucial parameter. So your sentence structure, your word choice, vocabulary, grammar, everything will count, right? So when you are writing, you have to keep all these in mind. So your information, that is whether you've got your relevant information, how will you get your relevant information? You have to take down notes from the reading as well as the lecture. Now, one thing good in the reading section is that the passage will appear again when you are writing. The passage will be there in front of you. But don't depend on that the passage is going to be there. You have to take down the notes because you need corresponding points. Now, say you have taken down all the points from the lecture, but you don't know what it corresponds to. That will not be a very good idea. So take down your notes. We will do the notes format also. Your language, organizing when you are writing, each point in 1 paragraph is important. And when you're talking about the scoring rubrics, now what will get you a score of 5? In the speaking section also, we spoke about the scoring rubrics. Here also we have the score of 5 successfully selects important information from the lecture, right? Coherently and accurately presents information from both lecture and reading. So if you look at this, what is the focus on? If you see, focus is on the lecture, right? All the points. So even when you are writing, your focus has to be on how the lecture is dealing with the points. And the reading points from the reading are reference points to discuss the lecture. So important information, that is what is crucial, presents information from the lecture and reading. And it should be well organized. And of course, few language errors. Your language should be correct. You organize. When you say well organized, it's not only the paragraph structure, but also sentence structure. Both are important. Now, when you come to a score of 4, it says generally good, more or less. Yeah. So you can say quite good, not very good, or excellent. So generally good in selecting important information from the lecture and reading, may have minor omissions, inaccuracies, vagueness, or imprecision. More frequent or noticeable minor language errors. So more frequent language errors, maybe your sentence, and remember we are writing, so there should be no typos. It's very common that when you are writing, you forget. So after writing, you have to have time to edit what you have written. There should be no like glaring mistakes which you could have avoided. So spelling mistakes, and very important is any word or term that has been used in the passage, you should not make a mistake with that. Yeah, that will be very noticeable. Now that was a score of 4. Now, what would a score of 3 look like? Conveys only vague, global, unclear, or somewhat imprecise information about the lecture and reading. Yeah. So important information may be missing. Maybe you didn't get your notes down properly and you just about looked at the points in the passage because it was in front of you, and you made up something related to the lecture, which is not good, right? And key points may be missing. Errors of usage of grammar, more frequent and obscure meanings. So this would be a score of 3. I am not going to discuss score of 2 and 1 because I don't expect that from any one of you. So at least 4 and 5, of course, is desirable. Okay. So that was how your writing, integrated writing will be scored, right? So if you see, each one of them talks about important information. So any information relating to the reading and the lecture, you should have. Okay, now when I was talking about the raw scores and how it is scaled to a score of 30. So if you get a perfect 10, you'll get a 30. Now 9.5 will give you 29, right? That is, maybe you've got a 5 in one and 4 from in the other, or 4 from the so this is, when I'm talking about this is the integrated plus the independent, that is task 1 plus 2, right? So in task 1, if you got 4, in task 2, if you got 5, that would be 9.5. Or right, no, so maybe you got a little less here and there. Or a score of 9 will get you 28. If you get, say, 7, 7 would be like 3 in one plus 4 in the other, that would be a 22. So if you see, getting a 4 in one and 3 in the other is not a very good idea. So you have to aim for at least 4 in each of them to get 25. So this is something which most of the universities will be looking at. Writing score of 25, speaking score of 25. So if you say you got 105 on the whole, you got, say, 30 in reading, 30 in the listening section, right? That means, and you got a 20 in speaking and 20 in writing. These two will not be a very good score. Some of the universities, especially of UK, would ask you to take the test again, where you should get at least 25 in speaking and 25 in the writing. So it's best to work on it and get a 25 in the first go, right? So this is your scoring, raw scoring and scale scoring, right? Okay, so now coming to the specifics of how to deal with the integrated writing. Yeah, that is very important. Simmer. Yes, Simmer, you haven't been attending the classes so far?
Yes, ma'am. Earlier, I hadn't decided if I wanted to give TOEFL or IELTS. So now that I've decided, I will attend the lectures, and Shruti ma'am will give me the other remaining lectures and the recorded lectures, and
Okay.
I will take a look at this.
Yeah, because I haven't been seeing you in the other lectures. Okay, make sure you go through the videos, and if you have any doubts, so you have to practice. If you have any doubts while you are practicing, then you can ask maybe you can ask Manish sir to arrange for a doubt solving at some point of time.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, so coming down to the specifics of the integrated. So we already said that you need 20, you will get 20 minutes to write 150 to 225 words. Yeah, a minimum of 150. You can't write less than that. And you don't need to write more than 225. Yeah, 3 minutes to read. Then from the reading passage, what do you need? You need the main idea, and you have to take notes on the key points. Now, don't try to memorize. You will not remember everything. And the passage will reappear as I told you. Now the lecture will be on the same topic, but a different perspective mostly. 2 minutes will be the lecture time. Here you will take notes. The lecture will not be accessible after it gets over. You have to remember that. So all points from the lecture have to be taken down. Right? Okay, now coming to the what is expected for you. So the format, yes?
Ma'am, can you show the previous slide on that?
Previous slide, okay. Yeah. So this is just the basic, what the reading will be like, what the lecture will be like, right? So from the reading sample, will be describing a particular point or a particular idea, and it will be defending the position, right? So there will be arguments given, and in the what will the lecture be doing? It will be expanding the information by offering examples and mostly conflicting viewpoints on the topic, yeah, and explaining the viewpoint. So maybe there are 3 points in the passage. The lecture will be taking up the 3 points and discussing them, but usually not agreeing to the view of the passage. And there'll be reasons. So this is what you have to take down: the reasons and examples. Yeah. So the main idea when we talk about, first we should know what the main idea of the reading is. So what are both the lecture and the passage talking about? So the main idea you will get from the first paragraph usually. And then there will be 3 points, usually in 3 paragraphs. So the structure will be the same no matter what passage you get. Yeah. If you do 10 questions will have the same structure. So you will remember that for the integrated reading, that is task number 1, you will get a passage. A passage will have a topic and 1, 2, 3 points. And when you come to the lecture will be on the same topic, discussing the same passage or the same points, and most probably not agreeing, so giving reason and examples for not agreeing. Whereas the passage also gives reasons and examples for the opinion, right? So this is what you will get. So this is, if it is ingrained in your mind that this is what you are expecting, you know how to take down your notes. So if you talk about the listening passages, specific points that relate to the points in the reading, right? Each point will have something related to it. Now, when we talk about the questions, the questions will be something like this. Summarize the points made in the lecture, being sure to explain how they cast doubt on the specific points made in the reading passage, right? So every question will begin. So you know that what is important? Focus on the lecture. The question will ask you to focus on the lecture. So summarize points made in the lecture, being sure to explain how they cast doubt on the specific points made in the reading passage. So when you are writing, it should be clear that, okay, this is the point made in the lecture, this is the point made in the reading. Yeah. And or it could ask you, it could be worded a little differently. Now, when you say cast doubt, means it doesn't agree with, right? Similarly, summarize points made in the lecture, being sure to explain how they challenge specific claims or arguments made in the reading passage, right? So the lecture will be discussing points contrary to the view in the passage. Or summarize points made in the lecture, being sure to specifically explain how they answer the problems raised in the reading passage. So when you say it says answer the problems, it may be they are providing solutions or criticizing the solutions in the reading. It could be either way. Summarize the points made in the lecture, being sure to specifically explain how they support the explanations. So if you get they support the explanations, you know that it is not criticizing. So you will be picking up the points in the passage and show how the lecture is supporting those points, the reason given and the examples given, right? Usually you will get something of casting doubt or challenging claims. Or there could be another one, summarize points in the lecture, being sure to specifically explain how they strengthen the points made in the reading passage. So here it would be supporting the points made in the passage. So these were the different types of question. That is, now if you look at this, the structure of the question is the same. Only what differs is whether the lecture is casting doubts or challenging or answering the problems or supporting explanations or strengthening. So either it will be agreeing to the passage or not agreeing to the passage. There will be two scenarios, contradicting or supporting. Now, what do the questions ask you to? First thing is summarize points in the lecture, right? And explain how they related to specific points in the reading. So when you are summarizing, you don't just generally summarize. The purpose is to bring up the points from the passage and how the lecture responds to them. So now we have to get to writing them or dealing with the question, with the passage and lecture. So what should your essay be doing? Recap each point from each of the main points made in the audio clip, right? For each of the points, clearly describe how it contrasts with or challenges the point from the reading passage. So these are the two things you are doing. You are summarizing, so you are getting the points from the lecture, showing how it contrasts or challenges the points in the reading passage, or whether it is supporting the points in the reading passage. Yeah, and you have to use specific examples, not your own examples, but the examples only from the lecture. So remember, one thing is very important, that your opinion is not asked for. Extra knowledge you don't require. You only have to take stick to whatever has been said in the passage and the lecture. Use the points to frame your answer. So this is purely analytical. And another thing very important, as I have always said in the speaking section also, always paraphrase. So now you may tend to use the exact words from the passage because the passage is in front of you, but don't do that. Take the points, take the main ideas, write it down in your own words. So writing it down in your own words is very important. Yeah, just copying down whatever is given to you in the passage you will be losing marks. So how do you do that? Usually change the direct speech into indirect speech. That's one way of paraphrasing. Or if you can't figure out how to paraphrase a sentence given to you or how to paraphrase the main point, just turn the wordings around. That will also help. But don't copy it down word by word. And of course, as I said earlier also, do not include your own opinion, which is extremely important. Well, the moment you use your own opinion, your grading will go down. You are not the development. When it comes to development, you will lose marks. Yeah, stick to information from the lecture and reading. And lecture summary is the most important part of the essay. So when you say summary, it is not like you just summarize the lecture first and then move on. We will work on how to write it, but points from the lecture should be summarized. And you may take the main points from the passage, right? Anyone wants to take down anything from here? Don't worry, these I will share the PPT also. And anyway, when you look at your the guideline section and the session, the integrated writing session, all the points are there. Now, as I said earlier also, you can have two different scenarios. One will be contradiction, where the lecture doesn't cast doubts or disagrees, contradicts or casts doubts on the key points in the reading. Yeah. Now, or supporting the points in the idea in the passage with examples, right? So whatever scenario you come up with, your work is to summarize the points in the lecture and use the information for each point to either support or contradict, right? Okay. So now we come to the most crucial part, taking down notes. Yeah. So now from the reading passage, now remember you get 3 minutes to read the passage, and it's not a very long passage, say about 600 or 700 words or so. And since it is point wise, it doesn't take too much time to read. So what do you do? First thing is, from the reading passage, you have to take down the position or opinion of the author. Main supporting reasons. This is the reasons are important. So if the passage is giving some idea, say it is talking about why we should not, why using plastic bags is not such a good idea. Yeah. Or banning plastic bags does not really solve the problem. So that is the main point. Now there would be 3 reasons to support the idea. So 3 reasons with examples will be given to you. 3 main supporting ideas given. And it will always be point by point. So you will have the introduction. This is from the reading passage. There will be an introduction. There will be 1 paragraph, 2 paragraphs, 3 paragraphs. Each paragraph will be talking about 1 reason and examples given to you, right? Now from the lecture, what do you take down? The basic idea as a reading passage, that will be the same. So you didn't need to write it. Now the lecture usually follows the same pattern. Maybe at times it could be that the the second point is discussed first or the third point is discussed second, but usually it follows the same order also. So the main points will be matching up to the main points of the reading passage, right? And you don't have to search for the points. So either directly support or refute, you know what it is going to do. So that you will come to know in the beginning of the lecture. In the very beginning of the lecture, you will know whether it is supporting or contradicting. Now, lecture may include some extra information. which maybe you don't require. Now remember, you need all the important information. So when we say important information, any point or example that supports or contradicts the point raised in the passage, you have to take down. Now, irrelevant information is not required, but yes, sometimes it becomes a little difficult to see whether it is relevant or not. So you write it down. Where you can decide while you are listening, you can't decipher so much. So you take down whatever points are there. And when you are writing your answer, you can say, okay, I don't need this point. So the question, as we saw, mostly it will be summarize the points in the lecture, be sure to explain how the challenge specific points made in the reading, or raise doubts on the points in the reading, or could be support. So usually you will get, usually the question that comes up so far, at least 90% of the questions have been of challenging or raising doubts, right? Okay. So now, as in the speaking section, we have a format for taking down notes, right? So in your notebook, you write down this format first thing. Because when you are going to do the exercise, you need your format. So now here again, instructions will be given to you. While the instructions are being given to you, you are ready with your format. Yeah. So all you have to do is make 2 columns. You know, there's going to be the reading and the lecture. You don't need to write full forms of words. You can write symbols, half words, short form of words, as long as you have got all your points down. Now it is easy it's easy taking down points from the passage because you are reading and you have enough time. When it comes to the lecturer is not going to wait for you. So if you have missed out a point, at least write down 1 word relating to it and move on to the rest of it. So you cannot say that I missed something in the beginning and then I didn't know what to do. I didn't get any other points. That's not going to work, right? Okay. So what do you get? The main idea, that is a topic from the passage. That's the first thing you put down. Next, the 3 paragraphs. Point number 1, example. Maybe point number 1, you get a reason why the passage is supporting the idea. Point number 2, and example. Point number 3, example. That is you get on from the passage. So we will do a passage and you can take down. Now, when you come to the lecture, you remember that you will get the same point, the response of the lecturer, how the lecturer refutes the point or agrees to it, and example. Then corresponding to point number 2, the response, example. So the reason will be given. Yeah, take down the reason, how the lecturer responds and with what reason. And corresponding to point number 3, what is the reason and example, right? So this is important. So just create your columns, the main idea, whatever will come up, you can write down in a couple of words, then point 1, point 2, and then example. So you don't have, you know exactly this is the example. Then 3, your point, example. Now, when you are taking down your lectures, for point number 1, what is the reason, example. For point number 2, reason, example. For point number 3, reason, example. That's what you have written down, right? So when there'll be a lot of instructions read out to you, and I will give you the instructions. So you know this is what is going to be said. You did not pay attention to the instructions for the exam because you know what is being said, right? So everyone has got down the format. Anyone who hasn't? Okay, so let's move on. So if you are writing, from all that you have got, this is what it should look like. So this is a random notes taking. So it could be say a science research. Now small, now what is small, you know. Half the things you don't need to write because you have, it is fresh in your mind. So even one word if you write down, the rest of it will come back to memory. And you need not take down all details from the reading passage, because you will be, the reading passage will be accessible to you when you are writing your answer. Okay, but from the listening, you have to take down your points in a little more details. So this is what it will look like when you are writing. Okay. So now moving on, after you've taken your notes, what are you expected to do? You should know how to structure your essay. Yeah. So remember they said good organization. So clear structure, separate points that transition smoothly, that is what is required. So you're focusing primarily on addressing relevant tasks in a concise fashion. So you have to write within 225 words. Maximum you can go is 230 words, not more than that. And so you will be writing in a Word document, and word count will be available to you. But editing tools like the grammar tools and all will not be available. Spelling tools will not be available to you. So that you have to do on your own. If you write a spelling wrong, your word will not tell you that your spelling is wrong. Okay. So when you practice, try practicing without looking at those tools. So addressing the relevant task in a concise fashion, that's what you have to do. So you have to be what are they expecting? It should be coherently structured, articulately developed, and correct in terms of conventions of written English. This is what is expected from your response. Okay. So now we see that we need at least 4 paragraphs. So when you are writing, your paragraphs will correspond to the points in the passage and the lecture. So you had one introduction. Yeah, that is what is the topic about and what are the opinions. Second paragraph will be point number 1. Third paragraph will be about point number 2. And fourth paragraph will be point number 3. A conclusion is not necessarily required. But if you think you have time, you can conclude with just rewriting the introduction in different words, right? And of course, as we said earlier, paraphrase, write in your own words. Now, what have you to take note of? Spellings of keywords, especially words that appear in the passage, should never be wrong. Any spelling, any name that you have used, any term that has been used, which is maybe you're not familiar with, but it is there in the passage. You should not go wrong with it. Grammar. Now, when you are talking about grammar, apart from sentence structure, usually you will write in the simple present tense. Stick to the present tense. Don't go into the past. There's a like the author said. No, the author says, the lecturer says. Yeah, the lecturer expresses her opinion. Sentence variety should be there. So there should be no repetition of sentence structure also. Right? And transition words, that is very important. When you are going from one point to the other, one paragraph to the other, you will require transition words. Right? Okay. So now when we said we need all these things, how do we structure our essay? We said 4 or 5 paragraphs. 5 paragraphs if you want to put in a line of conclusion. Otherwise, usually it will have 3 points plus introduction. So you don't need 5 paragraphs. So what do you need? Introduction. general relationship between the resources you heard and read. Yeah. Short description of the structure of the lecture. That is all that goes into the introduction. So 2 to 3 lines will be your introduction. Your body paragraphs, remember 3 body paragraphs. So paragraph A will be paragraph 1 on the first point. Paraphrase the professor's point. Contrast, compare with the reading. That's what you have to do, right? And give extra detail and specific examples on the professor's point. So from the lecture, you give your specific. Now, that doesn't mean you don't write the point from the reading. You are, now what are you comparing to? So here your point from the reading comes in, right? Point from reading will come in and you will say, doesn't agree to this or contradicts this particular point, you write down the point. Now paragraph 2, same thing you will do with the second point. So again, paraphrase the professor's point, contrast, compare with the reading, whatever extra information or additional specific examples from the lecture will go in, right? So you had the introduction, paragraph 1, paragraph 2, similarly, third point, paragraph 3. Again, paraphrase professor's point, contrast, compare with reading, extra information, example, whatever is given by the lecturer. And conclusion, if you think you have time, or maybe you still can use a few more words, restate the relationship between the two sources, which is absolutely optional. Yeah. You don't really, here it is not the conventional essay structure, that is you have your own opinion, you have a thesis statement, and now the thesis statement is more or less what the introduction you will give, but this is the structure you have to stick to and what Toefl expects from you. Yeah. So don't go on and say that, okay, this is a point and these are the two opinions of both sides. Finished. Each point has to be explained specifically, right? So, and you don't really need a concluding statement and your opinion does not matter. So that was the structure. Now we need a template for the structure. Yeah. So when you are writing, you shouldn't get stuck. So how do you introduce? Your introduction will be the main topic of both the reading and the reading passage and lecture. Yeah. So what are you doing? You are paraphrasing the two things, and you are also going to give your whether the lecture contradicts. Now that will be there in the question itself. When the question is given to you, you know exactly whether it is going to be contradicting or supporting. About 2 to 3 sentences, short ones, not very long ones. So you begin with a topic sentence that summarizes the main point from the lecture. So you can begin something like this: according to the lecture, or based on the lecture, or the lecturer states or believes that. That is how you begin your essay, right? And or you can say talks about or discusses if there is an agreement. Next, explain whether the passage refutes or supports, right? So the author of the reading believes that, and or casts doubts on, say the author of the reading believes that the point raised in the by the author is not valid, right? Or the lecturer casts doubts on the claims made in the article. That is the best way: clear, concise. Or he or she, then you go on to he or she thinks that. Here you bring in your main idea, what it is talking about. Or you can say disagrees with the idea or belief, or the lecturer challenges this point. So out of these options, you have to choose one option, stick to it. If you write 3 essays, use the same format for all the essays, right? So you get used to, because remember in the exam, you will have one essay and it should be near perfect. It can't be absolutely perfect, but at least it should be near perfect, right? Next, what do you do if you are agreeing to it? Then the the lecturer agrees with the author's notion of belief, stating that, or the lecturer supports the idea or belief, explaining that. So this is in case of an agreement. So each body paragraph, then that was your introduction. Now, when we talk about the body paragraphs, each of them should cover one main point from the listening and explain it in relationship to the reading passage. So your paragraph 2 will be your body paragraph 1 relating to point number 1. So here you are focusing on the key points in the lecture and explaining whether the passage refutes or supports this idea, right? Or the lecturer supports the idea of the passage, whichever way is easier for you to write. So the main point, first of all, the author points out that you talk about the first point, or it is mentioned that you give a supporting detail. Yeah. So the point followed by the supporting detail. Next, the point is challenged by the lecturer. So here, when you say the author points out, this is your point from the reading. Yeah. So remember when you made your columns, point from the reading was there. Look at what has been, look at the passage and figure out what it, get the details, just paraphrase it and make it concise. So first of all, if you begin with what the author has said, it becomes easier to say that the lecturer challenges this point, right? So first of all, the author points out that it is mentioned that, so a detail from the reading. This point is challenged by the lecturer. She says or he says, so the counterpoint explanation given by the lecturer. Or on the other hand, the lecturer asserts or claims or suggests. Now, if you see, asserts, claims, suggests, these are the transition words or the words you will use. Every paragraph you can't say the lecturer refutes or lecturer disagrees. So asserts, claims, or suggests, and then you go on to give the explanation. So here you will be expanding, right? Or you can say, furthermore, that's another point. Furthermore, she argues, you give a supporting detail. So you have your point from the reading, supporting detail from the reading, the opinion of the lecturer, counterpoint of the lecture, supporting detail from the lecture, right? So when you're saying supporting detail, you should have examples also from the lecture. Or you can say the lecture and author are essentially in agreement with each other, right? If it is not refuting. Now, when you come to the second body paragraph, that is on the whole paragraph number 3.
Ma'am, can you show the previous slide, please?
Okay. Yeah. Got
Thank
it?
you, ma'am. Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
So basically, your point from the reading, supporting detail from the reading, how the lecturer challenges the point. So the counterpoint raised by the lecturer, details given by the lecturer. If it is supporting, then again the same thing. Same way for the second body paragraph, another key point, that is the second key point in the lecture. Again, you can say the lecturer argues or contends or asserts any one of the words. So you can just say that in the first paragraph you will use argues, second paragraph you will use contends, third paragraph you will use asserts. So you know these 3 words you can use in 3 paragraphs. Yeah. Secondly, the lecturer argues that, or the author contends that, right? If you say author contends that, you can use lecturer argues that. or the article notes that, or the author is suggesting or proposing that. So the point raised in the reading that comes in. Yeah. Lecturer rebuts this argument, or the lecturer, however, disagrees, or if it is agrees in some cases. Yeah. The idea and the details will come in. She suggests, that is what is the point raised in the lecture. Similarly, the lecturer argues or contends or asserts that, or elaborates on this by mentioning that. So you have to figure out what you want to use, right? Or you can say, evidently the lecturer thinks or believes that, whereas the author thinks or believes that, if you want to go the other way around, which becomes a little difficult sometimes because you have a time constraint and the points are in a certain order. You can begin with the reading, the points of the reading, then move on to saying that the lecturer rebuts this argument, or the lecturer contends that. So you bring up the points in the from the lecture. Now, when you come to body paragraph,
Can you show the
4,
previous?
okay, just a second. Yeah. Right. Point from reading, explanation from reading, how the lecturer, is the lecturer agreeing or not? So contends, argues, asserts, you can use any of them. Followed by explanation given by the lecturer with details, right? That's what you need to put in, and you can put it in your own way. And another thing, remember what the sentence structure in the, like if you say the author disagrees with the point raised in by the, say the lecturer disagrees with the point raised by the author, then in the next paragraph, you don't use the same phrase, change it a little bit. That's where we talk about templates. Now the last key point, and if you want a conclusion, you can just put one sentence of a conclusion in along with the 4th paragraph. So when you come to the last paragraph, you can use thirdly or finally as a transition, or lastly as a transition. Yeah. Then again, you talk about what the author states, or the lecturer introduces the idea that, or the lecturer goes on to say that, whichever is most suitable. Now the lecturer, the article establishes that, is here you get the point from the reading, right? So you can stick to one format: point from the reading, explanation, lecture, whether the lecturer agrees or not, contends, disagrees, refutes, rebuts, explanation from the lecture, expansion with the examples and points from the lecture, right? Lecture, on the other hand, posits that. Now the thing is that when you are using a variation of words, that gives a good impression. If you use the same words in each paragraph, it's not a good thing. Or you can say, on the contrary, the lecture argues that, clearly shows that the lecture is bringing up a point which is contrary to what the passage is saying. Now, in the conclusion, you can just put in one line of the conclusion. In conclusion, the lecture and reading are both about the main point over here. The professor effectively challenges. So you can say effectively challenges the claims made in the article. That's all that goes into your conclusion, nothing else. Right? Or you can say, in conclusion, the lecturer and author appear to be in agreement if it is a case of agreement, or disagreement about this particular point, just the main point. You don't even need to write anything more, right? But don't use the same wordings as in the introductory paragraph. You may use, it will be just a paraphrase or rephrasing whatever you have said in the first 2 lines of your essay, right? So everyone got this down? More or less, your structure of every paragraph will be same. only the variation will be the specific terms of the template. Right? We can move on. Okay, this is very important. When you have the passage and the lecture, don't just talk about the main point and the points in the passage and lecture, but not telling them which point is coming from where. So if the point is from the reading, you have to say that this point, the author says that, author brings up the point that, according to the author. And if you are talking about what the lecturer says, then the lecturer posits that, the lecturer argues that, the lecturer contradicts the argument that. So with saying that, so whatever it comes from, whether it is comparing or contrasting from the reading or listening, it should be clear. So you can say according to the lecture, or the reading states that. So if you see, when the examiner is reading your essay, no, this was a point from the lecture. This is, know that you have clarity of where the point has come from. According to the speaker or lecturer, the reading made the point that, yeah, or the reading makes the point that, right? And your own, so you just tell them where it has come from. And so that was telling them where it has come from. Now, when you are showing examples, each paragraph, you have to tell them this is the example. So how do you vary your wordings to in each paragraph? You can say, for instance, as an example, in addition, also, right? So these are different ways you can say that, okay, this is an example coming up, or the lecturer illustrates this with the example that, yeah. Okay, now one thing very important is, now we know that we are talking about disagreement, right? We have introduction and 3 paragraphs where we have to show disagreement. So what are the different ways we can talk about disagreement? We can say the lecturer objects to, or the speaker objects to the assertion by the author, right? In the reading passage that employees should attend all required meetings. So objects to, or you can say disagrees with. That's the first thing that comes to your mind. The speaker disagrees with the author's claim, right? Or contradicts. So the author or the business can succeed. The speaker in the lecture, however, contradicts each principle, right? So if you see, if you say object, you can in one paragraph, you can say disagrees with in the introduction, or contradicts in the introduction. Then in the first paragraph, you can say objects. Second paragraph, you can say disagrees. Now there are more. Invalidates, right? The speaker believes that the author's assertion that motivation should always come from within is invalid. So you can say is invalid. The speaker believes that the author's assertion so and so is invalid. Now, when you say these arguments one by one are challenged by the speaker in the listening passage, this you can use in the introduction, right? They are one by one, they are challenged by the speaker in the listening passage or in the lecture. You need not say listening passage, it becomes a little confusing. You can say lecture, right? Or if it so happens that the points are absolutely weird, so the speaker believes that the author's claim that whatever is unfounded or ridiculous or absurd, That also can be said. So if it is not based on facts, you can say it is unfounded. Right? So these are the different ways you can express the contradiction that the lecturer is bringing up. Okay? Or not to be taken seriously can also be used at some point. So even though the author argues that the speaker does not take this claim seriously, or if you're talking about a scientific basis, has no scientific basis. That is in the case you have a theory being discussed. However, the speaker believes that this overdose theory has no scientific basis in fact. Right? So these are the different ways you can vary the wordings in your sentences. Or disputes, that is easy to use. The author claims that this, so you write the author's claim. However, the speaker disputes this claim by providing reasons. Yeah, you can use this in the introduction. Or disputes this claim by pointing out that. Anything can be used. Okay. So let's move on. Now let's look at a template. Using these, how you can just structure your essay. The article introduces the topic of, so here your topic will be there. More specifically, the writer discusses, so the stance of the author. So we are talking about the writer, right? The lecturer in the listening passage or the professor in the lecture disagrees. He believes that, so the stance of the professor, that whatever the point has been raised, the main point, and attacks each of the claims made in the reading. So this is your introduction, right? Now, when we come to the passage as such, in the reading, the author begins by stating that, right? So the first point from the reading will come in. The lecturer, however, disagrees. He states that, then the counter argument will come up. He goes on to state that this. So if you just write this down and put blanks, you can have your framework, just fill in the blanks from the information from the passage and the lecture, right? So this was your introduction. This was your paragraph 2, that is relating to point 1. Now, if you come to point 2, the author also claims that your second point comes up from the reading. Again, the lecturer believes that, so instead of disagrees, we say believes that there are flaws in the writer's argument. The speaker holds that, so instead of believes, here we are saying holds that, then the point raised by the professor, right? Another reason why the author feels, so the third point in the passage is that the professor in the listening passage is doubtful that this is accurate. He suggests that, so the counterpoint raised by the professor. So, and if you want a conclusion, to sum up, both the writer and professor holding conflicting views about dash, it's clear that they will have trouble finding common ground on the issue. So this is extra, you don't really require. Even if you write just one sentence, more than enough. So this is what your final essay will look like with the template, right? Your template is there, you just fill in the information from the reading and the lecture. Got it? Okay. Now comes the problem of managing your time. You have just 20 minutes. You have to think, you have to get your points together, and you have to edit your essay, right? So you need at least 3 minutes minimum to edit your essay at the end, so that you are not left with flaws which could have been avoided very well. So in the first 2 minutes, you've already taken down your notes. You just gather your notes and figure out an outline. You know your template, you know your organizing. So what will go into, now introduction will go into your first paragraph. That is the main point. The first point will go into your paragraph 1. Second point will go into your paragraph 2. Third point will go into your paragraph 3, that you know you have already taken your notes in that format. Your work is now not to think about the paragraphs because they're already there in front of you. You have to think of your template, which you already have memorized. You know that this is my template. In your first paragraph, maybe maximum you can do is you write down the particular word that you are going to use. Say argues, right? Brings up, contents. So maybe these are the 3 words in the 3 paragraphs you're going to use, right? And maybe a corresponding word to that related to the reading passage. So this is what you have to keep in mind when you are writing. So introduction should be over in 5 minutes. Your timer will be there. Your time, when you are reading also, the timer will be going on. You know that you have only 1 minute left and you have still not read half the passage. So you have to speed up accordingly. If you think that you have taken more than 5 minutes in the introduction, you know you don't have, you have to hurry up a little. So body paragraphs, 2 to 3 body paragraphs should be over in about the 16th minute, right? So 4 minutes left, your body paragraph should be over. If you want to write a conclusion, 1 line could be enough, or you can use that time to edit. Now you will be able to edit your essay, change words, change sentences, but you have to have enough time and you should save it. That's one thing very important. Okay. I hope you people are not getting bored because all this is very important. If you forget this, okay, this is the most important part to get your structure and template right? So this is what your task will look like. So when you are on the exam day, your integrated writing task comes up. They will give you instructions. So writing section instructions will be read aloud to you. It will be written also and read aloud. And you know what the instructions are going to be. You don't need to really focus on it. So you will be given an academic passage to read. This passage will contain between 250 to 300 words. When the clock starts, you will have 3 minutes to read the passage. So you know that the clock is going to be there. You haven't. So the clock will be on either the right-hand corner or left-hand corner. You have to keep an eye on that. Then they will say a lecture that addresses the content of the reading will start to play. Lecture will last for 2 to 3 minutes. After the passage finishes, you will be given a question. The question is almost always like summarize the points in this. So this is what the question will be, right? So these will be actually told to you. You know that this is the first thing, second thing, fourth thing, all these. Then lastly, the clock will start after the question. So the question will come up after the lecture and you will get 20 minutes. Again, the clock will start and you know you have to write between 125 to 225 words. That also will be told to you. So that will be a reminder that, okay, this, if suppose you are a little confused on test day and what was the word limit for integrated, what was the word limit for independent, don't worry, it will be given to you, right? So this is something which will be there, you need not pay attention to, right? Now instructions will be read out to you. You will read the passage, listen to a lecture, blah, 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 everything will be told to you. So what are you going to do when all this is being done? Anybody? While all this is going on, what are you doing? Format for taking down your notes. But that is very important. Otherwise, you'll be utterly confused with what point goes where, right? So you are ready with your columns. Yeah. Exact format, you know. So this is what you are ready with. So this is exactly what you need. When you are reading the passage, you're writing down the main point, main idea, what it is about. So the lecture is also going to talk about this. So you, when you are writing down, immediately what comes to your mind? Okay, this is going to go into the template. Then point 1 from the passage, point 2 from the passage, point 3 from the passage, this you have written down while you are reading. When the lecture comes up, you don't need to write the main point again, you know it is the same. You just have to write down what the first point is, example and reason that the lecture is giving you. Second point, example, reason that the lecture is giving you. Now the lecturer may say, okay, now coming to the second point that the passage is talking about, or the second point of this, you know the point is already there. You just have to get the reason, example that the lecturer is talking about, right? So you are ready with your notes. So now let's do a passage, right? So this is the first and second paragraph. I will scroll down after you have finished the first and second paragraph. So you know you get 3 minutes to read the passage. So you've got your format, you read the passage, take down your notes. So go on with your notes. So about, you know, there are going to be 4 paragraphs. So 1.5 minutes for the first 2, 1.5 for the second 2. If it is difficult to read from the screen, if you have your books, then you can turn to TW1 set 1 of reading, integrated reading. Or if you want to open up your PDF and scroll up and down on your own, you can do that. I don't remember the exact page, but most probably around 60, 65 or something. You want me to scroll down? If you've got the first 2 paragraphs. First time reading will take a little time, so I'll give you extra time to read, no problem. Now remember, from the reading, there will be points which are not very important. So you don't need to, from the reading, you just need to take down the most important points. Yeah. So here, however, some critics have raised doubts about the accuracy of the memo. This is important. They claim that Chevalier distorted or invented many events in the memo to make his life seem more exciting and glamorous than it really was. So this is important. So what are the key words that you are writing down from the first paragraph? Chevalier's memos, critics raise doubts, accuracy, Yeah, you don't need to write memo again because it's going to be there. Now, what do they claim? That distorted, invented events, right? To make his life seem more exciting and glamorous than it really was, you don't need to write. So you just need the main idea or main point. Now coming to the second paragraph, what did you take down? Now this is, remember, point number 1. So example given. In his memoir, Chevalier claims that while living in Switzerland, he was very wealthy. He spent a great deal of money there on parties, gambling. However, so this is what the critics say, evidence has recently surfaced that Chevalier borrowed considerable sums of money from a Swiss merchant, and thus argue that if Chevalier had really been rich, he would not have needed to borrow money. So just the keywords: Chevalier wealthy, parties, gambling, evidence. What evidence? Borrowed money. Yeah. Now Swiss merchants detail you can see later also. If he were rich, he would not borrow. So you know that the lecture is going to talk about this, right? Okay. Now coming to the third point. So this is point number 2 after the introduction. So we had point number 1, point number 2. Critics are also skeptical about the accuracy of the conversations. So the first one was about borrowing money. Second is about conversations that Chevalier records in the memoir between himself and the famous writer Voltaire. So conversations with Voltaire. That's all you need to write in your notes. No one doubts that Chevalier and Voltaire met and conversed. However, critics complain. So what do the critics do now? In this particular essay, you will know that you won't be talking about author, you will be talking about critics. Yeah. So each passage you come across may have something peculiar about it. Complain that the memo cannot possibly capture these conversations accurately because it was written many years later. This is important. Written many years after the conversations occurred. Critics point out that it is, so you can use the word point out or say that it is impossible to remember exact phrases from the extended conversations held many years earlier. So it was about the conversations many years earlier cannot be accurate because it is impossible to remember exact phrases. Right? That's what you get. Now coming to point number 3. Critics have also questioned the memoir's account of Chevalier's escape from a notorious prison in Venice, Italy. Yeah. So the third point is about escape from prison. He claims to have escaped the Venetian prison by using a piece of metal to make a hole in the ceiling. So the detail is important. This detail should come up somewhere in the lecture, either agreeing or refuting, and climbing through the roof, right? This is what Chevalier has said. Critics claim, what do the critics claim? That while such a daring escape makes for enjoyable reading, it is more likely that the Chevalier's jailers were bribed. So jailers were bribed to free him. They point out that the Chevalier had a number of politically well-connected friends in Venice who could have offered the bribe. So what is the doubt raised by the critics? They say that his memoir talks about escaping from the prison. So the point you are looking for in the lecture would be escaping from the prison in Venice. What is not accurate? Making a hole in the ceiling. And according to the critics, jailers were bribed to free him because he had politically well-connected friends, right? So that's what the passage talks about. So this is all from the passage. Point number 1, point number 2, point number 3. So everyone got your points? You just have to write down the keywords, nothing more than that. Okay. Now we'll just quickly go through the lecture. Okay, just a moment. I don't know if I've shared the sound. Just a second. Just a moment. I'll share again with sound. Okay. I hope you, if you can't hear me, then just let me know. So ready for the lecture? You've got your points from the passage. Corresponding points you will be noting down.
Now listen to part of a lecture on the topic you just read about.
No memoir can possibly be correct in every detail, but still, the Chevalier's memoir is pretty accurate overall, and is, by and large, a reliable historical source. Let's look at the accuracy of the 3 episodes mentioned in the reading. First, the loan from the merchant. Well, that doesn't mean that the Chevalier was poor. Let me explain. We know that in Switzerland, the Chevalier spent huge amounts of money on parties and gambling, and he had wealth, but it was the kind of property you have to sell first to get money. So it usually took a few days to convert his assets into actual money. So when he ran out of cash, he had to borrow some while he was waiting for his money to arrive. But that's not being poor. Second, the conversations with Voltaire. The Chevalier states in his memoir that each night, immediately after conversing with Voltaire, he wrote down everything he could remember about that particular night's conversation. Evidently, the Chevalier kept his notes of these conversations for many years and referred to them when writing the memoir. Witnesses who lived with the Chevalier in his later life confirm that he regularly consulted notes and journals when composing the memoir. Third, the Chevalier's escape from the prison in Venice. Other prisoners in that prison had even more powerful friends than he did, and none of them were ever able to bribe their way to freedom, so bribery hardly seems likely in his case. The best evidence, though, comes from some old Venetian government documents. They indicate that soon after Chevalier escaped from the prison, the ceiling of his old prison room had to be repaired. Why would they need to repair a ceiling unless he had escaped exactly as he said he did?
Okay, that was easy to get down. So now you see why the points from the passage, if you write them down, you know exactly, okay, this is what the lecture is talking about. So you need not write them again. Whereas if you don't have your points from the lecture, you will tend to write them again because you don't know what it is talking about, right? Yeah. So after you...
Now listen to...
Sorry. Right. So now the other instructions, you have 20 minutes to plan and write your response. Now all this will be read out to you. You already know. Your question is, summarize points made in the lecture, being sure to explain how they respond to the specific points made in the reading passage. Now, if you see, they say they respond to the specific points. Now, you know whether they agree or disagree, right? So in this case, they are refuting the points made in the reading passage. So now, what are you going to do next? The points you have. So if I look at the detailed points, this is what a detailed point should. Now, you don't have to get so much of details points. This is just recapping the points. So in the memoir, the Chevalier claims that he was wealthy while living in Switzerland. But since Chevalier is known to have borrowed money there, he cannot have been very rich. This is the first point, right? That is, he borrowed money. And from the lecture we get, wealth was in the form of property, which had to be sold in order to generate cash. So he wasn't poor. He just had to borrow money for a few days. That was important. You must have got that down, right? Till he waited So he had to wait for his property to be sold. Now, in the passage about the conversations, the critics say cannot be true since it was written many years after the conversation occurred. From the lecture, each night after the conversation took place, Chevalier wrote down everything, right? And witnesses confirmed. That is a very important point, right? Everyone got this down? Now, when we talk about the Venetian seal prison, so he escaped by making a hole, which is unlikely according to the critics because he was politically well connected and could have offered bribe to the jailer. According to the lecture, other people were even more powerful and had political connections. They could not bribe, so even Chevalier wouldn't have either. Also, prison records. Now, this was important. What was the proof here? Prison records indicating that after Chevalier's escape, ceiling had to be repaired. So that much you would have got down, right? So we'll take just about, what's the time? Okay, just 4 minutes more. So you can at least write down. So we know the structure, you need an introduction. You need body paragraph A, where you will be talking about first body paragraph, the point from the passage and the lecture. So in this case, what will your body paragraph A deal with? What was the first point that you had? The accuracy of that he was poor or not. Yeah, so borrowing. Your first point was borrowing. Second body paragraph, again, second point and the other details relating to it. This was about the conversation, right? Third body paragraph was about the prison. So you know these points you have to get together. So comes to your template. You have a template in mind. The reading and the lecture are both about accuracy of Chevalier's memos. Okay. While the author of the article argues that, here you can put in what the author talks about, the lecturer disputes the claims mentioned in the article. His or her position is that, so you can use his or her accordingly, whether the lecturer is male or female. So this was your introduction. Now coming to the first body paragraph, first, according to the reading, you will be giving the point raised in the reading about the accuracy of the accuracy of the memo where he says he was rich, right? Because he borrowed money. This argument is challenged by the lecturer. She claims that you will put in the details. Additionally, she points out that, so here you can talk about that he had to wait a few weeks till he got the money, right? So it's just about getting your template, filling in the blanks. Secondly, the author suggests, so this is your second point, yeah? What is the, here you can say critics. Instead of the author, you will say critics. Critics suggest that, what was the point? That the conversations he has wrote down, the conversations he had between, the conversations between Chevalier and Voltaire that are written in the memo could have not been correct because it was written many years after the conversation actually took place. That's all you need. So the article notes that it took place many years later. The lecturer, however, asserts that, and then you go on to the details from the lecture. She also goes on to say that, now here you can talk about the witness, right? And they could have been accurate because every word was written down. Finally, the third point, author puts forth the idea, or the critic, according to the critics, you put on the point In contrast, the lecturer's stance is that. Yeah, and then go on to the details. So you will be able to write? Right? I'll share this PD also with you, so you can get. So when you are writing, your final will come up something like this. Right? So each paragraph, the introduction, reading and the lecture both are about, whereas the author of the reading states that this is in general, whether it is critics or the author, you will write. So this is what it will look like, and all your details will go into the blanks. Easy? So the structure is fixed. You fix your structure, fill in the blanks, you are done with your essay. As long as you have the main point. Now, if you see in the first paragraph that we read, there were a lot of unnecessary information which was not required. Whether Chevalier was he was a controversial figure or not, whether he was famous or not, that is not required. We just need the main points, right? So if we look at a sample of this, the reading and listening are about the memoirs of Chevalier de Sengal. So now remember, the passage will be there in front of you. You will get the name, even if you don't have to really write it down, right? The name will be in front of you. You will get the spelling correct. That is important. So the Lier, Senga, whatever, however it is pronounced, but the spelling should be correct. Who was a very controversial figure. The author and the reading feels that his memoir is not historically accurate. So in the beginning, the lecturer does say that memoirs need not always be accurate, but that is what the critics feel, that they are not accurate. Professor, on the other hand, thinks that the memoir is a reliable record. He casts doubt on each of the ideas presented in the reading, right? So it could be he or she accordingly. First of all, the author points out that in the memoir, the Chevalier claims to be very wealthy. He says that recent evidence, however, suggests that the Chevalier needed to borrow a lot of money and therefore could not have been rich. Lecturer casts doubts on this claim. She observes that the Chevalier was rich, but since he did not have cash, so the details go in, did not have cash he could spend right away, he had to borrow money. She states that he needed to borrow money while he was waiting for his assets to be converted. So, details of the point from the lecture. If you see, most of it is about the lecture, only introductory point from the paragraph, that is what is the point raised, that is from the passage. Now the second point, you begin with secondly, author contends that, right? The conversations recorded in the memo may not be very precise. He notes they occurred many years before the memo. So here you can say the critics instead of he. And that it would have been impossible for the Chevalier to remember them accurately. On the other hand, lecturer notes that, right? And then the points from the lecturer. Then she contends that when he was writing his memo, he referred to such diaries, right? Finally, now here one thing is missing, that this was confirmed by a witness that should have gone in. Finally, the author states that the Chevalier's depiction of his escape from a famous prison in Venice cannot possibly be realistic. He points out that instead of escaping through a hole, like the memo says, he probably had a friend to bribe the jailers. Professor, however, disputes this claim, right? And notes that prisoners with even more powerful friends could not bribe their way out of the jail. She also says that shortly after Chevalier's purported escape, a hole in the ceiling had to be repaired, which indicates that he may have escaped in a way described in his memo, right? So this is your essay in response to the question given to you, right? So now you have an idea of how to go about it, right? Okay, now what you will do is in TW1 practice set 2, you will have a passage given to you which has 4 paragraphs, and you have listening the writing track 2. If you look at your writing track, or if I okay, I'll share this PPT so you can play the track from here, or if you don't want to use the PPT, you'll have the track in the writing integrated writing track files, right? So just look for writing. This will be the reference of the track. So you listen to the lecture, you take down your points, follow the same pattern, write your response. Yeah. So you will first try writing the first one in your own, like it's already there, but still you will try writing it, and then you will write this one. And I want okay, you can mail it to me. I'll just put down my email address for those who don't have it. So that's the email address you can send your responses to, right? And in case you wanted, yeah, it will be better to, because you'll be writing in a Word document, mail it to me so that I can review it. I want the response to the practice set 2 question about ecological sustainability and eco certification. Okay. So put down some time. You will need maximum half an hour to read and write. In fact, not even half an hour, you will require just about, yeah, okay, half an hour maximum. Okay. So your first attempt may not be very good in terms of language and sentence structure, but at least give it a try. Right? Okay, we will have the next lecture on Wednesday, and that will probably be our last lecture as such. And we will have a doubt solving later on, once you all have done some work and have requested for doubt solving. Okay. So whenever you think you need to solve your doubts, put in a request with Surjit ma'am. We will fix a day where everyone's doubts can be put together and solved. Right? Any doubts so far? Any doubts? Celeb, did you follow everything?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And please write and send me your essay. I want one essay from everyone by day after. And don't wait for the last moment that a session starts at 4 and you are sending me at 5 minutes before 4. Send me at least an hour before that so that I can read them. Okay? All good so far? Okay, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? Akshita?
Yes, ma'am.
So the format, structure, template, everything clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay then. Thank you very much. So we'll end our session here.
Thank you, ma'am. Good day.
Thank you. Good day.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome.
Thank you, ma'am.